Thank you again, Sandra, for coming to speak to us. So Sandra is a senior development manager for membership at the Institution for Mechanical Engineers here in the UK. Sandra graduated from Trinity College Dublin and has worked in a variety of roles in marketing and sales at corporate hospitality venues, Virgin Hotels, and Sodezo before joining IMechE. Based in Glasgow, Sandra leads the UK membership development team. Her team is responsible for recruiting apprentice and student members and developing and maintaining relationships across the engineering community. And to grow a diverse and sustainable membership, they provide support for engineers throughout their careers by delivering workshops and one-to-one guidance sessions virtually and in person. And they have customized these sessions to meet the requirements of various audiences that they engage with throughout the industry and academia. They also translate the academic and competency requirements into individual pathways and support employers in attaining the highest professional standards. Her team also provides strategic guidance for active volunteers in the region. Sandra gains enormous job satisfaction from coaching applicants through the process of gaining registration and all the way to fellowship. And it's a fantastic role that they help members across all grades to uncover the wealth of opportunities that may be realized by exploiting their membership of the International Institute for Institution for Mechanical Engineers. And there are no 2 days that are the same. Every member contributes to IMechE's global influence, irrespective of their engineering sector or their career stage, and receiving positive feedback from successful applicants and members who have achieved their goals always bring a smile to Sandra's face. So we're hoping that at the end of this session, there will be a lot of smiles on your face, Sandra, because we hope that our members will be able to achieve their career goals by listening to you and following the recommendations in your webinar. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Sandra Mulligan for her presentation. Over to you, Sandra. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And thanks very much for inviting me to take part in this session today. So I'm just going to share my screen so that I can share my slides with you. Sorry, bear with me a moment. I have to say I normally use Teams for delivering webinars, so this is a little bit unusual, so please do bear with me. So as I said, as I was introduced, I spent all my time guiding and coaching applicants through the process of gaining professional registration. You've got my email address on the screen at the moment, and my goal today is to make sure that you have a good, clear understanding of exactly what's involved with gaining professional registration with IMechE. I've included my QR code here for LinkedIn, so you're very welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn if you wish, because that's where I share details of events that are happening within the institution. And just to recap, I'm part of the membership development team, and we do lots of different things, including free one-to-one advice sessions for applicants, both online and in person. So if, for example, you're based in Glasgow and you'd like a visit to your company, I'd be very happy to visit you. If you're down in Bristol today, for example, or further afield, it would be one of my colleagues. And the other thing that's on our website is a link to our YouTube channel, and our YouTube channel is where you'll find recordings of events similar to the session today. So if you go to our homepage of the website, which is imeche.org/application help, you will find details of the team. You'll also find the link to the YouTube playlist, which I just wanted to draw your attention to today so that you can refer back to it after today if necessary. And these 3 little videos here on the right-hand side should be helpful for those of you who are intent on submitting an application in the not too distant future. And you can book, for example, the one-to-one appointments through this button on this page of the website. So there's tons and tons of information on our website, and as a consequence of that, it can be easy to get a little bit lost on the website. So I've included various screenshots today so that when you get a copy of these slides after the session, you know exactly where you need to go to in order to find the information that's relevant to you that perhaps you're looking for additional guidance from. So today I'm going to work through a little bit of background information on the institution, the benefits of professional registration, the academic requirements attached to each grade of professional registration, the competence requirements, because the competence of all professional engineers here in the UK is assessed against a framework which is called UK Spec. And UK Spec standards stands for UK Standards for Professional Engineering Competence and Commitment. And it's a framework that's been devised by the Engineering Council, and it applies across all of the 30 separate professional engineering institutions in the UK. So anybody who applies for professional registration has to be able to demonstrate to us that they meet each of the competence requirements attached to the grade of registration that they wish to apply for. I'll also show you where you'll find tools for recording your initial professional development. We refer to initial professional development as the period before you're awarded professional registration. And then after you're awarded professional registration, you need to commit to doing CPD, or continuous professional development. I'll explain to you the application process, so exactly what's involved in gaining professional registration, and a little bit about what to expect at your professional review interview. Anybody who applies for chartered engineer status or incorporated engineer status needs to submit an application form, and they also need to attend an interview. And that interview lasts for about 45 minutes to an hour and is conducted via a four-way Teams call. So if you've heard, for example, that the IMechE interview lasts for 3 hours, I can reassure you that that's absolutely not the case. I'll share a little bit about CPD as well and what can count as CPD, and then show you some of the resources that are available to you as an IMechE member. So please do jump in with any questions that you may have, and I'll do my best to find an answer for them. If we don't get an opportunity to cover your particular question during the session this afternoon, don't hesitate to get in touch either with myself or one of my colleagues, and we'll come back to you with an answer. So firstly, a little bit of background information about the institution. We were founded originally over 177 years ago, when the innovators, the thought leaders of the day needed to get together to share ideas, develop best practice, etc. And that's still a large part of the work that we do. So we organise numerous technical events, conferences, seminars. We arrange STEM activities, all sorts of good things. And there's tons more information about all the activities that we're engaged in on our website. We're also licensed by the Engineering Council to accredit university degree courses and industry training programs. So if a degree course is accredited by the institution, that means it's got a mark of quality assurance attached to it. And then we can award 3 different types of professional registration. We can award EngTech registration, or EngTech, engineering technician, IEng, or incorporated engineer status, and CEng, or chartered engineer status. And we have partnered, we're very much committed to being an inclusive organisation. So we have partnered with a number of organisations, which you can see on the screen at the moment. And we're always looking to expand the network of organisations that we partner with. So that's a little bit of a taste and flavour of what the institution is all about. But I'd encourage you to explore our website, where you'll find a lot more detail on specific activities that we're involved with. So one of the first questions I frequently get asked are, what are the benefits of gaining professional registration? And I think it's fair to say that benefits really mean different things to different people. Some people want to become professionally registered because one of their goals was to get into university. Their next natural goal was to get out of university and get a good job. And their next goal after that was to progress in their career. So for some people, it's just the next natural goal after graduating. For other people, it's because they find themselves in a position where they're not able to move up the career ladder without being professionally registered. But ultimately, registration brings higher earning potential, status, and also networking opportunities for individual registrants. It's a professional qualification that's awarded to you as an individual. So it's a qualification that's personal and portable, and it allows you to demonstrate to the wider engineering community that your competence has been assessed and verified by a reputable engineering institution. It's globally recognised, and organisations benefit from having their employees registered, and also the wider community benefits as well. Now, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, I've included some case histories from the Engineering Council website. So I'd encourage you to explore those pages so that you can perhaps read up a little bit about it and understand the benefits a little bit more clearly. And I've also included just one quote from one of our members who works at Aston Martin, where, as you can see, his thoughts on gaining professional registration. And on the right-hand side of the screen, I've included two testimonials from individuals who attended workshops that I ran about a year, 18 months ago. So the message is really that there's lots of help and guidance and support available to you as an applicant. One of the benefits of getting involved with the institution is that we're very democratic in that we're run by the members for the members. So the way that works in practice is that we have committees who set up events throughout the regions. They can be technical events, it could be a social event, it could be a site visit. So if you go on to the Near You pages of the website, you'll see details of the events that are organised in your local area. And of course, getting involved allows you to develop skills that are transferable and that you can add to your CV. And because this is the Glasgow branch of your organisation, I've just included on the right-hand side details of an event that's taking place in Glasgow in June, which is an opportunity for developing engineers to pitch their ideas on making Glasgow a smart and sustainable city. So if anybody in the call is in Glasgow and would like to put a pitch forward for this event, please do get in touch directly with my colleagues on this email down here on policy@imeche.org. And I'm planning to attend the event, so I'll hopefully meet some of you in person at that particular event as well. We also offer membership partners, membership partnership rather. This is an initiative to allow employers to demonstrate that they value registration and that they work in partnership with the institution. So if you have a look at those pages of the website, you'll see details of all the organisations that are membership partner. So if your employer is not listed as a membership partner and it's something that you think is worth pursuing, please do get in touch and we can enroll you as a membership partner. It's free of charge to become a membership partner. There isn't a cost attached to it. So today is all about gaining professional registration. And the way that I like to explain it to people is to think of it as having three distinct steps. So I'm going to explain each of those steps to you today. The first step is you need to have an academic qualification or equivalent, so knowledge and understanding of engineering principles. The next thing you need to do is you need to demonstrate to us that you've developed competence in the sector in which you're employed. And the third part of the process is you have to demonstrate to your peers that you're competent. And the way you do that is by writing up an application form, which you're then invited to discuss during the professional review interview. So at the interview, you will be asked lots and lots of questions based around the information that you've shared in your application form. You'll be scored on the answers that you provide us with on the day. And if you achieve the minimum score, you will be successfully elected as a member. If you have a bad day, for example, and you do a bad interview and you're not successful, you can reapply when you feel ready. But do bear in mind that the success rate at interviews overall is about 92%. So the vast majority of people are successful. And if I take you through each one of those steps in turn, if we start off and initially look at the academic requirements, and I've included these in a little grid, which you can see on the screen in front of you at the moment. So for EngTech registration, engineering technician, typically somebody who's completed an apprenticeship program in the UK will meet both the academic requirements and the competence requirements attached to that grade of registration. For incorporated engineer status, you will need to have an accredited BEng degree or equivalent, and typically about 3 years of relevant work experience in order to submit a successful application. And for chartered engineer status, you will need to have an accredited MEng degree or equivalent and about 4 years of relevant work experience. Before you can submit an application form. Now, it's important to say right at the outset that it's not guaranteed that if you've got 4 years, you'll meet the requirements, because everybody on this call today will have different personal strengths and weaknesses, different aspirations, different opportunities available to them, different work ethic. So there's a variety of different factors to consider. But most people will ask during a call like this or during a one-to-one meeting, how long is it going to take me? That is an indicator of how long it can take you. Some people can do it in slightly less time. Other people, it takes them a lot longer. So it really does depend on how you present your individual case to us, as it were. And one of the things we also do is award membership free of charge to undergraduates and to apprentices. So if any of you on the call today are undergraduates, you can avail of free membership of the institution for the duration of your studies. So if you're unsure about the status of your degree, how do you find out if a degree is accredited or not? Well, I normally recommend that a good starting point is the Engineering Council recognised course search. And I've just included a screen grab of this on the screen at the moment. Now, this is best for UK degrees, and you just need to punch in details of the degree, and it's an automated search, so you'll immediately get a response. But do be careful of the notes down here at the bottom. So you can see I've used as an example somebody who has a BEng degree from the University of Coventry. But as you can see down here in the notes, the accreditation relates only to Coventry campus. If, for example, the applicant had this degree awarded by the Malaysia campus, for example, it would not be accredited. So that can be a starting point if you've got a UK degree. If, however, you studied further afield, you would need to use our qualifications checker. So this is the page that you can use to find out if the degree you hold is accredited by IMechE or another professional engineering institution in the UK. Now, in order to get an accurate answer, we need all of the detail that you can see on the screen at the moment. So where you studied, when you graduated, etc. If, for example, you hold a BSc and an MSc, you need to provide us with details of both qualifications when using the qualifications checker. And if, for example, you've used the qualifications checker in the past, the result will stand unless you've gained an additional academic qualification since using the qualifications checker. And it's not an automated process, so please do bear with us. The Engineering Council one is, but our one is not. So it does take a little bit of time before you get a response, because my colleagues have to check through various databases in order to come up with an accurate answer. Now, there are lots of very good degrees out there which are not accredited for a variety of different reasons. If you have a degree which is not accredited, we may need to look at your qualifications through on an individual basis, and we do this through our academic review process. So if, for example, you have a BSc and an MSc that you gained from a university in Nigeria, you will need to undergo academic review. And that's the process that we use to work out if your qualification is the equivalent of an accredited degree or master's. So if, again, if you're on the call today and you hold, for example, a BSc and a PhD, you would need to go straight to undergoing academic review. You do not need to use the qualifications checker, because that's the answer that you'll get if you do it. But I can give you that answer straight away today. So BSc and a PhD, please go straight to the academic review pages where you'll find the application form that you need to complete. And if you gained, for example, a BEng degree in the UK prior to 1999, then the likelihood is that it will fully meet the academic requirements for CEng, because the requirement changed from being a BEng to being an MEng back in 2000. And on the screen at the moment, you can see a summary of what I've just shared with you. So if a degree is accredited, great. If it's not accredited, you'll need to undergo academic review. If you have, for example, a BEng honours or degree or BSc degree, and you want to gain CEng registration and you've just recently graduated, you will need to bridge the gap between your qualification and an accredited MEng by completing an individual further learning plan. And if you're on the call today, and if perhaps you gained your degree many years ago, you've got lots of work experience since you gained your academic qualification, you've never really considered applying for professional registration, it's something maybe you've kind of been thinking about, but not really investigated. There are cases where engineers can use their technical work experience or experiential learning in lieu of an academic qualification via our career learning assessment pathway. Now, this pathway is by invitation. So if you think you are eligible for a career learning assessment, you would need to get in touch either with myself or one of my colleagues, and we would be able to advise you accordingly. So I'm just going to pause there for a moment and see if there are any questions in the chat relating to the academic requirements. So if you do have any questions relating to academic requirements, please pop them in the chat, and I'll be happy to deal with them, or we can deal with them at the end. Just going to pause for a moment to see if anybody's got any questions.
Engineer Kelechi, do we have any questions?
Oh, I've also been checking the chat. There are none at the moment.
None. Okay.
Yeah, but
so
okay.
And take it at the end of the.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't have the chat on display, and I just wanted to check to see that there wasn't questions building up there. So, okay, so that's the academic requirements. So one of the first things I always advise applicants to do is to check and see if the qualification they hold meets the requirements for IMechE or CEng registration, as indeed the case may be. And increasingly, we are getting undergraduates who get work experience as part of their degree courses applying for EngTech registration. So we have some people who are applying, they've gone through EngTech, their next goal is to gain IMechE or incorporated engineer status, and then their longer term goal is to gain CEng registration. Moving on then to look at the competence requirements. So as I said earlier, the competence requirements are laid out in a framework which is called UK Spec, and that stands for UK Standards for Professional Engineering Competence and Commitment. And if you're not familiar with UK Spec, that is something you need to become familiar with in order to construct a good application, because you need to be able to demonstrate to us that through your experience, you've met each of the competence requirements. So you can see on the screen at the moment are the QR codes to take you to the relevant pages of the website, where you'll find application forms, guidance notes, and some exemplars as well. So that can be a good starting point to get you thinking about the kind of language that we expect to see in an application form. So I'll just share with you now a summary of the competence requirements. So competence A is your ability to apply your academic knowledge in the sector in which you are employed and develop competence in that sector. B is your ability to analyze and solve engineering problems. C is all about your leadership and management skills. D is all about your communication and interpersonal skills. And E is all about the code of conduct, health and safety, ethics, the environment, etc. And in your application form, you have about 400 words which you can use to demonstrate to us how you've met each of those 5 competence requirements. So when a lot of people look at the application form initially, they think, oh goodness, how am I going to write this up? And then once they start to write, they very quickly find that they're over the 400 words and they have to start cutting back a wee bit. So my colleagues and I regularly run workshops to help people with composing application forms, and we can also review your draft application form before you submit it. Now, if you want to see all the detail of UK Spec, because some of you, of course, being engineers, will want all of the detail, if you go on to the Engineering Council website, you can see I've just taken a screen grab of Competence A for a CEng applicant, a chartered engineer applicant. So here on the left-hand side of the screen, you've got a summary of the competence requirements and the 2 main elements of that competence requirement. And this part of the guidance is quite useful, because here on this part of the screen, you can see examples of how you as an applicant could demonstrate to us that you've met this competence requirement. So it can be useful if you've been working for a number of years to do almost a brain dump where you think about how the work that you've been doing may map against the competence requirements. And you need to focus in on what you've achieved over the last sort of 5 to 6 years maximum. So if you're on the call today and if perhaps you've got 20 years of experience, you need to focus in on what you've been doing in the last sort of 5 to 6 years of your career, because you need to show to us that your level of competence is current and up to date. So if you've been working for a long time, I think probably writing up this application form is more of a challenge than if you've just been working for 5 years, because you've less information to try and look back on and review and share with us. Now, if you go onto our website, this is where you'll find the guidance notes. And if you want to link into UK Spec, you can just click on these links here. Or if this is something you've been thinking about for a wee while, I'd suggest you just get out a copy of the application form and start to make bullet points in terms of getting down your thoughts on how your work maps against these requirements. Now, on the IMechE and CEng pages of the website, you can also see a sample completed application, but that application form is way down in the bottom of the page, so a lot of people miss it. So there are 2 exemplars on the website, so they can be useful just in terms of giving an indication of what a written application form may look like. However, I'd have to say that every application form is unique because every applicant is unique in terms of their qualifications, their career history, their personal interest, etc. So if you go on to the guidance notes, if you go on to the application form, you'll see that we have summarized UK Spec A, as you can see on the screen at the moment. And as I said earlier, when you come along to your interview, you'll be asked lots of questions based around the information that you've shared in your application form. And the assessors, who are chartered engineers or a mixture of chartered and incorporated engineers, will ask you lots of questions. They could be from totally different industry sectors to yours. So it's very important when you write up your application form that you share with us your employer, the nature of its business, and that you also write out any acronyms or technical terms that you use fully before you use the abbreviated version, because different acronyms can mean very different things in different industry sectors. But on the day, based on how you answer the questions that are put to you and the information you've shared in your application form, you'll be scored from a level 1 up to a level 4. And the minimum score that you need to be awarded in order to be successful is 3 level 3s and 2 level 2s. Now, diversity, equity and inclusion is part of UK Spec 4. It's a new requirement that was introduced a couple of years ago. So on the IMechE website, you'll see lots of resources around this topic that you can use to read up on and help you prepare for interview. You'll also see on our website, we also have an accessibility widget, which is over here on the right-hand side, which means that if, for example, you wish, you can change the website font to dyslexia-friendly font, for example, or you can change the contrast so that it's easier for you to navigate and read. But the kind of question you may be asked during your interview could be, what's your approach to understanding the perspectives of colleagues from different backgrounds? So lots of good information and resources on the IMechE website, which you can all access free of charge if you wish to do so. I've also included a screen grab from our webinar hub, where you'll find details of other webinars that we've arranged. So these can be very good as IPD, or initial professional development opportunities as well. So that's a little bit about the academic requirements and the competence requirements. How do you go about recording your initial professional development? Well, the institution has developed a number of tools. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Sandra. We've had a couple of questions in the
Oh,
chat.
okay.
I
Sorry.
don't know
Okay.
if you want to look at them just now,
Oh, I
or
see.
what.
Okay. Oh, it's been busy.
Yeah, it's been busy.
Okay, that's
Or
fine.
if you want
Thank
to
you.
take everything at the end, we can collate all
No,
of
I
them.
think we'll go through them. That's
No
fine.
problem.
So because we don't, first question is about if a degree is from Nigeria. Because we don't accredit degrees from Nigeria, you would need to undergo an academic review. And that's a process where you would send in to us a transcript of your degree. Now, the transcript is normally where the university lists the subjects that you studied in each year of your degree, along with a copy of your CV. That information will go in front of a panel of academic experts, and they will work out if your degree is the equivalent of an accredited degree. So I have worked with lots of applicants from Nigeria over the years, up in Aberdeen in particular, who have successfully been through this process. So next question is somebody who has got a degree from Nigeria and both an MSc and a PhD from Sheffield. You would need to undergo an academic review, and in that academic review, you would need to share details of all 3 of your qualifications. So you do not need to use the qualifications tracker. You can go straight to the academic review page of the website and submit an academic review. Yes, of course, you can have a copy of the presentation. I will share it with CEng after today, and it can be sent around to everybody. And you'll see I've included a lot of information so that it's useful for you to refer back to, because in working with IMechE for many, many years now, I speak to a lot of engineers who go onto our website and end up getting a little bit lost on our website. So the slides have a lot of information in them so that they're helpful to you after the session today. So yeah, absolutely. If somebody has a BSc in science degree, say fuel and energy, can that person apply for registration with IMechE? For again, for if you've got a BSc may meet the academic requirements for incorporated engineer status, but if you have a lot of work experience, you could use your work experience to apply for chartered engineer registration through our career learning assessment pathway, again, depending on the amount of experience and level of experience that you have as well. What you need to do if you're a chartered engineer in Nigeria already, for example, I have to confess, I am not familiar with the organizations that you've mentioned in your message. That's Victor, I think, has put that question. We do have an existing registrants pathway available, but I'm not sure if it applies if you're registered in Nigeria. So if it's okay, I'll come back to you with an answer for that question. If you wouldn't mind just dropping me an email, my email address is just sandra.mulligan@imeche.org. I will come back to you with a question.
So,
Another one
Sandra,
about,
can I just jump in a bit there?
yeah.
What if there's this Washington Accord
Yes.
that Nigeria is affiliated to? How does
Okay.
that enhance the registrations for members?
The Washington Accord, to my knowledge, is relating to degrees, and the degrees being the equivalent of UK degrees. So there are lots of countries that are affiliated and lots of degrees that are affiliated to the Washington Accord. To be honest, my main dealings with the Washington Accord have been for developing engineers who have degrees that they gained at universities in America and working out if they're the equivalent. So that's something I will need to come back to you on, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yep. Another one, Solomon has put in a question. Solomon, I'm not sure. I will need to find out about Corinne and
So I was just about to comment, and
okay.
yeah, it will also be helpful for people if you're sending in your questions and you're using abbreviations. Could you please just type out the full meaning? COREN is the Council for the Registration of Engineering Practice in Nigeria. It's
Okay.
pretty much the regulator for engineering practice in Nigeria. And
Okay.
NSC is the Nigerian Society of Engineers, of which we are a branch of here.
Okay.
So it's a professionals practice group kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Even I do not know some of the acronyms and what they mean. Yeah, so people, please do write the full meaning of the things you're asking, just to be helpful to Sandra and all of us.
Thank you. But anybody who has additional questions, please just drop me an email and I will work on coming back to you with answers next week. To be honest,
Yeah.
I've never been asked about COREN until today. So like I was saying to you earlier, no 2 days are the same, and every day is a school day. You learn something new every day.
Excuse me,
Yes.
the meaning of IET is the Institute of Engineering and Technology
Yes.
here in UK. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
that's
Yes.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm already a member there. So I just want to find out, do I still need to go through the academic review like you
Okay,
said?
Solomon, IET is different to IMechE in that IET has decoupled membership from registration. So anybody can pay a fee to IET and use MET as their post nominals, but that's not the case with IMechE. With IMechE, in order to use, the CEng, IEng, or EngTech post nominals, an individual has to demonstrate that they meet both the academic requirements and the competence requirements. So I would need more details about your qualification before I could give you an accurate answer. I hope that helps.
Right.
Yeah, because they're two different organizations. So while we're both registered with the Engineering Council, we've got slightly different rules and regulations.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody else has said MSc, but unable to secure work experience. I would have a look on the career pages of the website because that includes links to organizations like Grad Cracker, which is a website for graduate jobs. It can also be worth going along to your local committee events. So again, depending where you're based, we've got very active committees, for example, in Aberdeen, in Edinburgh, and again, I'm just talking about Scotland, but right throughout the UK, and then other committees are very active overseas, but I couldn't tell you right here now exactly where they are. You'd need to have a look on the website for details of your local event, but that can be a good way to network and to build up contacts because a lot of jobs aren't advertised publicly. Often it's by getting to know people within a company that you'll find out about what vacancies they have.
So please, can I get your email, please?
Yes, my email is at the front of the slides. I'll pop it in here so that you've got it.
Yeah. Again, I would like to say that you can liaise with us. We have a direct link with Sandra. We can collate a lot of these things and facilitate these things on behalf of our members. So
Yeah.
you send a link message to us also, and we can help you in that regard. Thank you. Sandra, would you want to proceed with the presentation and take the other questions at the end?
Yes, I'll do that maybe, okay, because there's quite a lot of questions, which is great. I'm delighted to see all the questions because that's really helpful. And I think there's probably other questions that people can put forward as we progress. So this is just a spreadsheet that one of our members has devised for recording his professional development, and he very kindly shared it with me. So if anybody is looking for a tool that they would like for recording their initial professional development, I will share this, pardon me, along with a copy of the slides. So it's something that you can all refer back to, pardon me, if you wish. So if you meet the academic requirements, if you have enough work experience, you can apply for registration. And you can either use the online version of the application form, which you can see on the screen at the moment, or you can use the editable PDF version of the website, of the application form, which is on our website. Now, in working with applicants over many, many years now, I would say one of the biggest challenges for applicants is that as an engineer, you tend to develop a report writing style where you're used to writing and speaking in the third person all the time. It's very much about the company, the team, the product, the project. But in your application form, because professional registration is awarded to you as an individual, it's all about you. It's what you've done, what you've achieved, what you've contributed. So it needs to be written in the first person. So it's all about you, which goes against the grain for a lot of engineers. So we would expect to see you using language like I analyzed, I compared, I considered, I led, I designed, etc. That's the kind of language we would expect to see. Now, when you're starting out in your career, you're probably using language like I'm involved with this project. I've contributed to this project. But as you progress and develop in your career as an engineer, the language you use should be changing from I'm involved with to I'm managed or I'm responsible for. Make sure as well that you tell us about the outcomes from your activities. You know, were you able to change the design of a product so that it is cheaper or lighter or faster or more fuel efficient? Were you able to save money for your employer? You can also share in your application form any skills that you've acquired outside of the workplace. So if, for example, you do sports coaching, if you do STEM activities, they are skills that are transferable, which you can mention in your application form. And you also need to get 2 sponsors to sponsor your application form when you're ready to apply. Now, one of those sponsors must be registered with one of the engineering institutions that's recognized by the Engineering Council, and the other can be your line manager. So if you're applying for CEng, you will need a CEng sponsor. If you're applying for IMechE, you will need an IMechE or a CEng sponsor. And the sponsors can come from any of the engineering institutions that are recognized by the Engineering Council. Sorry, I need to amend my slides to include that. We also look for an organization chart when you're applying, and we are just looking for something simple like the one you can see on the screen in front of you at the moment. In reviewing draft applications, I often get very, very detailed org charts, which include photographs, telephone numbers, email addresses for lots and lots of people. We do not need that level of detail. What we just need to see is where you fit within the organization and if people around you are already professionally registered. So some people prefer to use an interactions chart instead of an organization chart. That's absolutely fine. And the last part of the application form is you need to include a development action plan. And that's really where you share with us your short, your medium, and your long-term goals that you're going to use to manage and maintain your level of competence. Because when you're awarded professional registration, essentially you're saying, okay, IMechE, I'm competent now in 2025 when I'm applying for CEng registration, but I'm going to maintain this level of competence moving forward by carrying out the following activities, whatever they may be. You choose the activities that are relevant to you and relevant to your career goals. Now, one of the myths surrounding CPD is that individuals think that CPD needs to be a training course that you've paid to attend. And while, of course, it may be a training course that you've paid to attend, it doesn't have to be. So this is a summary of the activities that can count as CPD. So self-study will count, academic study, volunteering, so mentoring other developing engineers, getting involved with the IMechE's divisions and groups, getting involved with the student challenge competitions, getting involved with various committees, acting as a school governor, etc. All of these will count as CPD activities, as will attending conferences or seminars or getting involved with your local area committee. Training, of course, will also count, but it's not the fact that you've attended a training course that matters. It's the fact that you were able to put the learning outcomes from that course into practice. And sometimes quite a bit of time can elapse between attending a course and actually being able to use that course effectively. And of course, we all have lots of opportunities during the day job, lots of spontaneous opportunities. So you do need to try and make an effort to record your CPD and reflect on what it is you've been doing. Because every year we're obligated to audit at least 8% of our members. So once you're professionally registered, you may be invited to take part in the CPD audit. And that's where you would need to submit to us details of what you've been doing for CPD. So if you've kept a record, it's not an issue. If you haven't kept a record, it may take you a little bit of time to collate the information. So that's a little bit about the process, the requirements, the writing style, etc. Once you submit your application form to us, we will conduct checks on it to make sure that you're working with the required level of responsibility, that there's enough information in the application form that we can conduct a good, robust interview with you, and that you're working within the field of mechanical engineering. And if all of that's in order, then we will invite you to attend an interview. And that interview lasts for about 45 minutes to an hour, and it's conducted via a 4-way Teams call. So there's the interviews facilitator who's there to ensure that the interviews are conducted fairly, the standards are maintained, etc. There's also 2 assessors, and then there's you as the applicant. So a 4-way call with everybody with their cameras on. And as I was saying to you earlier, vast majority of people are successful. I've included a quote here from one of our members, one of our incorporated engineer members who works up in Aberdeen. And his comment was that the professional review interview was one of the most enjoyable meetings that he'd had as long as he could remember. So I hope that will reassure anybody on the call today who is perhaps feeling a little bit nervous or anxious about the professional review interview. And just some tips to share with you about the interview. Again, you can refer back to these after today, but I hope it will help calm any fears that you may have about the interview. And the first tip is that the best foundation for a good interview is a well-written application form, because that makes life much easier for you as the applicant and also for the assessors. And while the interview is not an exam, it can be helpful to prepare for it as if it were an exam. And by that, I mean, make sure you read your application thoroughly before your interview and think about how you're going to answer any questions that may come up. And the interview panel will concentrate on your current role and the last about 5 years of your work experience. And please do bear in mind that it's likely that the interviewers will be from different industry sectors to yours. Make sure as well you suspend your natural modesty, because this is all about you. So use I and speak in the first person, and that's something you may need to practice. And it's not a technical grilling, it's a competence-based interview, and all 5 competencies carry equal weight. Some applicants think that the technical competence requirements have a higher weighting, but that's not the case. Competence E, I would say, and competence D are 2 that you should be able to get scores of 3 in. So make sure you prepare well for the questions that are likely to come up. And straight away, you can see that a good, well-written application form is evidence of your communication skills. D&I I've mentioned earlier. STEM activities are good evidence for D3. And also think about how your CPD plans align with your development action plan. It's useful to see that they're connected. It can also be useful to have to hand during your interview perhaps some photographs or drawings that you can share with the interview panel. So drawing sketches, maybe a report that you've authored or delivered at a conferences or seminar. And presentations are not permitted and not part of the interview. So just to be mindful of that. Other institutions ask applicants to deliver a presentation. That's not the case with IMechE. And then at the end of the interview, the assessors will ask you if there's anything that you didn't get to share with them during the interview. That's your opportunity to perhaps draw their attention to the fact that you have maybe got a promotion between submitting your application and doing your interview. And I always encourage people to either have the main points that they want to discuss during the interview written out on post-it notes or listed in bullet points so that you can quickly look down to your checklist and bring to the interviewer's attention any relevant information that you didn't get to share with them during the interview, rather than forgetting about it and then an hour later thinking, oh my goodness, I forgot to tell them about my promotion. So 3 scores of 3 in D and E is something that I think is very achievable. And the interview panel can make 3 different recommendations. They can recommend that you're elected as a member, defer with guidance, or not recommended. And the vast majority of people are elected. However, sometimes things don't go to plan. If that were to happen, we can then guide you through a successful interview second time round. Scores can be shared with you. So if you're not successful, you'll understand exactly why you weren't successful and you can reapply when you're ready. And the last few slides that I have to share with you, which I'll run through very quickly. Membership partner I mentioned earlier. Our divisions and groups, this is where you'll find the specialist industry sector information. So those pages are worth exploring. Every year we give out approximately £400,000 in prizes and scholarships and awards. Details of all of those awards are on these pages of the website. We also have a support network that's there to help any member that finds himself in a time of need. Now, hopefully none of you will need to use the services of the support network, but if, for example, you were to find yourself between jobs, you could avail of the employment coaching service. We've also got a fabulous library and information service, and vast majority of information from the library is available directly online. If ever you're in London and you're looking for a quiet place to go and work, you can go and get a seat in the library, grab a coffee and use the Wi-Fi. And as you can see, it's a lovely, beautiful building right in the centre of London. Tons more resources are on our YouTube channel, which I've mentioned to you earlier. So there are technical recordings as well as topical recordings. And then the student challenges, these take place here in the UK. Getting involved as a judge can be very good as CPD opportunities. And then my colleagues in learning and development organise a variety of different training courses. Members can attend these at a discounted rate. And most importantly, one of the big benefits are the networking opportunities that are available. So I'd encourage you to seek out your local group and get involved if you can, because it's a really good way to network, to build up your network of contacts, to build up your social network as well, and of course to learn. And then if anybody on the call is already professionally registered, you may be interested in volunteering to act as a professional review interview assessor. You can just contact my colleagues on assessor training at IMechE if you wish. And again, it's a great CPD opportunity. All of this does come at a cost, however, so I've summarised the costs on the screen at the moment, just so that you have an indication. So I'd encourage you, if you haven't already done so, as the next steps, to check if you meet the academic requirements. And if you've got any additional questions after the session today, don't hesitate to get in touch either with myself or one of my colleagues. So I will stop sharing my screen just now, and I will go back and check to see if there are any other questions waiting for me. I do hope that's been useful.
Yes, it has been,
Yes.
Sandra. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Fantastic presentation and very, very practical. I could
Good.
already see myself nodding on some of the steps I might want to take to get my own chartered status. Thanks for that.
Good. Now, I can see one of the questions here is that they've worked over 15 years and they're CORAN registered, but they came to UK 3 years ago and have not worked at any firm here. I think because of 3 years, if that is going to be an issue, because you have to show to us that your level of competence is current and up to date. So if the work that you were doing before moving to the UK, if the skills and knowledge are still current, then you may be okay to submit an application. If you've been doing lots of CPD since you came to the UK, you may be okay. But normally, if somebody is applying for registration, they have to show that their level of competence is current and up to date. If you haven't worked for 3 years, that may be an issue, but it's difficult to give you a definitive answer without knowing a little bit more about your personal career history. And somebody else made a comment. I don't know if you're registered, but no, your work experience counts from wherever you gained that work experience. It really doesn't matter where you gained your work experience because we conduct interviews globally. But the main issue I would say is that the work experience needs to be current and up to date. So I would say that, yes, the process has been streamlined because in the past you had to write a professional review report, and with that professional review report you started out literally with the blank sheet of paper, and we were looking for generally about sort of 2,500 words in a professional review report, which is generally about sort of 9 to 10 pages, but people went way over the word count and shared every single thing that they'd done throughout their career with us. So we changed that process from being a report to being an application form a number of years ago. So I think the application form is more straightforward in that it doesn't matter whether you've got 5 years experience or 25 years experience, everybody has to use the same application form. So work experience gained outside of the UK absolutely is relevant. So again, I need to come back to you on the questions relating to if you're PEng in Nigeria, where that stands up against the UK. And I'm just seeing if there's any other questions. Now, somebody has put in a question about academic review. Yes, unfortunately, the academic reviews do take us quite a while to conduct, and that's because we are relying on trained volunteers to conduct the academic reviews for us. And as I'm sure you can appreciate, while we have people queuing up to volunteer at events like Formula Student, we don't have people queuing up to conduct academic reviews. So it does take months rather than weeks, unfortunately. But you can't use the IMechE names, post-nominals, unless you're an associate member, in which case you can use IMechE, but the titles CEng IMechE, IMechE IMechE, and EngTech IMechE are actually protected titles, and you're not allowed to use them unless you are professionally registered. Are there any other questions? I can see there's lots of information in the chat, but I'm not sure if there are questions. It just seems to be contact details.
Yes, I think contact details.
Okay.
Someone
Yeah,
has requested for your email address, which we can share if you give us the permission to do that.
Yes, of course you can. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I popped it in the chat earlier.
Yeah.
Would
I
it
also
be,
wanted. Okay, go on.
would it be easier if I pop a PDF of the, I don't know if this actually works on Zoom. Can I pop a PDF version of the slides in the chat? Would that be an easier way to share them?
I would ask you send it to me first. And
Okay, that's fine. I'll do that then. Perfect. That's fine.
We would like to circulate it from the branch point of view.
Okay,
So,
that's fine. No problem at all.
yes, yes.
Okay.
I also wanted to remind people that if they have questions, they can raise their hands virtually if they would like to unmute themselves, and we'll invite them to ask questions. Engineer Paul is just on standby to coordinate that. But yeah, thanks, Sandra. In case there are no more questions, we're just about.
Just pop my email back in the chat again for anybody who missed it. Yeah. Thanks very much for all the interesting questions as well. That's really helpful. Thank you. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to answer all of them, but I will come back with answers.
And we have your email address as well, so
You do indeed, yes.
get in touch.